You hear about artificial intelligence in healthcare all the time, right? It promises to completely revolutionize medicine, find cures faster, create treatments just for you, but there's a really serious tension right at its core. You see, AI can either become this incredible tool to finally achieve health equity for everyone, or it could become a machine that just automates and speeds up the very disparities we're trying so hard to fix. So, which future are we actually building? To really get a handle on the stakes, we have to start by asking a pretty fundamental question.
It sounds like a strange question, doesn't it? I mean, code is just math. It's logic. It's supposed to be completely objective. But what happens when that code starts learning from a world that isn't objective at all?
Well, in 2019, a bombshell report came out that revealed something deeply, deeply disturbing. An algorithm, one being used in hospitals all across America to flag patients who needed extra care, was consistently pushing Black patients to the back of the line, even when they were objectively sicker than white patients who were getting that help.
So how on earth did this happen? I mean, the developers were careful. They made sure not to include race as a factor in the algorithm. But here's the problem. The AI wasn't actually measuring a person's health need. It was using a proxy for it, healthcare spending. The thinking was, it makes sense, sicker people probably have more money spent on their care.
And that was the fatal flaw. Because of all these long-standing systemic barriers, everything from access to insurance to just basic trust in the medical system, less money has historically been spent on the care of Black patients in the U.S. The algorithm didn't see history. It didn't see injustice. It just saw data. And that data told it a very simple but horribly wrong story. Less spending means less need. So Black patients must need less help.
And this is what reveals the true danger here. The algorithm didn't invent some new form of racial bias out of thin air. It just took the existing, human-driven inequality already present in our healthcare system, and it baked it into code. It amplified it at an incredible scale and speed. It didn't create inequity, it automated it.
That shocking story isn't just some one-off glitch. It actually reveals a fundamental vulnerability in how we build these AI systems. So let's zoom out a bit and look at the bigger picture, what's called the machine learning pipeline, and see exactly where things can go so wrong.
You see, bias isn't a single event. It's more like a contamination that can seep in at every single stage. First, it starts with data collection. If your data underrepresents certain groups, your model is just learning a skewed version of reality from the get-go. Then you've got label bias. This is about what you tell the model is a good outcome. In that hospital case, the label was high healthcare cost. But they weren't measuring health, they were measuring access to expensive care. Then, during the model design itself, certain features can unintentionally amplify patterns that correlate with things like race or income. And finally, you get to deployment. A model built and trained in one specific hospital might completely fail for certain groups when you try to use it somewhere else, a problem that, worryingly, often goes completely unnoticed.
And this isn't just theoretical. That 2019 case was a massive wake-up call for sure, but it was far from an isolated incident. We're now seeing a clear and consistent pattern of harm cropping up all across the healthcare field.
For example, sepsis prediction models, these are super important, have been shown to perform differently across racial groups. Dermatology AI tools, which are often trained mostly on images of lighter skin, are way less accurate at diagnosing skin cancer in patients with darker skin. And even the predictive models used to allocate public health resources can end up sending fewer resources to the very communities that need them the most, simply because the historical data reflects historical neglect.
This really gets to the absolute heart of the problem. When you train a powerful learning tool on data from an unequal world, it doesn't just mirror that inequality. It learns the rules of that inequality and then applies them with ruthless, machine-like efficiency. This is a critical turning point. If this is the problem, what on earth is the solution?
Well, the good news is that a whole field of computer science is now dedicated to solving this very problem. It's called fairness-aware machine learning, and the goal isn't just to find bias after the fact, but to actively engineer systems that are both accurate and equitable from the start. Now, the very first step in this process is maybe the hardest one. You have to define what fair actually means in mathematical terms. This is called a fairness metric. And believe me, choosing one isn't just a technical decision, it's a deeply ethical one that has huge real-world consequences.
For instance, you could aim for something called demographic parity. That would mean the AI recommends extra care for the same percentage of Black patients as it does for white patients, Or you could prioritize equalized odds, which focuses on making sure the model's error rate, the false alarms and the missed cases, is the same for both groups. A third option, individual fairness, says that two people with almost identical health profiles should get the same prediction no matter their race. The real challenge is you often can't have all three at once. You have to make a tough choice about what kind of fairness matters most for the specific problem you're trying to solve.
So once you've picked your goal, there are basically three main places you can intervene to make it happen. You can do pre-processing, which means you fix the data before the model even sees it, maybe by rebalancing it. There's in-processing, where you actually build fairness rules into the model as it's training, forcing it to aim for both accuracy and equity. And finally, there's post-processing, which involves adjusting the model's final predictions to make sure the outcomes are fair across different groups.
These technical tools are absolutely essential. I can't stress that enough. But they're not enough. A purely technical fix for what is fundamentally a human and societal problem is always going to fall short. The deeper, more meaningful shift has to be organizational. You simply can't code your way out of inequality. You have to change how you think, how you build your teams, and how you even measure success. It's all about moving from accidentally creating biased systems to intentionally designing equitable ones from the ground up.
So what does that actually look like? Well, here are three core principles. First, disaggregate your evaluation. Don't just look at the average performance of a model. Break it down by race, by gender, by income. Because if a model works great on average but fails one specific group, then it's a failure, period. Second, involve affected communities. The people whose lives are going to be impacted by an algorithm should have a real say in how it's built and tested. And third, build diverse teams. It's just common sense. People from different backgrounds bring different perspectives, and they are way more likely to spot the hidden biases that a more uniform team might completely miss. Which brings us right back to where we started. We are at a crossroads, a really important one. And the direction we take from here isn't predetermined. It's the direct result of thousands of small decisions being made right now, in labs and hospitals and boardrooms all around the world.
There are two very clear paths ahead. In one future, we just continue on default mode. AI keeps learning from our biased world and becomes this powerful force for automating and accelerating inequality. But there's another future. In this one, we make a different choice. We use AI not just to predict disease, but to predict inequity itself, to find the hidden gaps in our system and become a precision tool for finally closing them.
And this brings us to the most important takeaway of all. Achieving health equity through AI is not going to happen by accident. It's not a side effect or a nice bonus feature. It has to be the core intention from the very, very beginning. It is a design choice.
So ultimately, the question isn't whether AI is good or bad for health equity. It's already here. It's already shaping it every single day. The real question is for us. Are we going to let that happen by default, or are we going to step up and shape it with intention?